So growing up with him was an absolute trip. So the relationship evolved quite a bit over the years. In the early years, it was a combination of, this is the funniest guy I know, listening to White Lightning and like other ridiculous songs, and he's the scariest guy. My favorite memory was after T-ball practice. We go to McDonald's and he gives me one of those dollar cones. And of course, you know, we're sitting in the T-Bird and it's got those automated seat belts. So as soon as he starts it, I'm just sitting there looking at my ice cream.
Oh no.
You already know, cuts it right in half. You know, gets all over my little practice uniform. He yelled, but then he realized it didn't get on the seats, so we were good. And like any 5-year-old, you know, I did the best thing I could. You know, I cried. You know, then getting into kind of like young adulthood, he was always a catalyst. He served to edge and push you on. I think it came from growing up in the Depression, where he had to create his own opportunities. And he would always encourage us to do the same. And yes, he tried to convince me to be a pilot as well.
Many times.
Many times. But yeah, it was funny. I remember talking to him. He's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm studying psychology." And he was like, "Yeah, you know," he thought I was trying to be a psychic. So that's like an explanation. But then, past that point, I'd say like 22, 25 on, I wouldn't see him that much. That's when I would see him maybe every 3 months, every 6 months, and then maybe holidays if I could. And that's when I really started to respect and appreciate, looking back on everything he's done. From the constant nudges forward to kind of sucking it up, and like being a man. And I loved how genuine he is. Especially in a professional environment with what he was doing. You could never speak to this guy and ever get the impression that he wasn't who he said he was. From the tone, the body language, and everything he said. And that is so rare. And it's always a breath of fresh air, especially now in this climate where I feel like there's so much posturing and people are trying to be something else. It's a blast from the past. And I just wanted to share all that, and I respect him immensely. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ed Martin, and I got to know Paul many, many years ago when he would come to the American Airlines hangar just like that. He didn't come to complain about airplanes. He came to talk to the maintenance people about retirements, about Christmas parties, about length of service dinners. And if he was in town, not out on a flight, he would come with his camera. And that picture is very unusual. And I say that because Paul took so many pictures. Oh my God, thousands. And he invited me to come up to his house and help him try to put them together. And it was great. When I got there, they were really organized in historical order. I'm looking at it, oh my God. There were 5x7s, 6x4s, 8x10s, 11x8s, black and white colors, you name it, he had it. So we would sit in the garage and we go through the pictures, and every now and again I'd find one and I'd say, "Hey Paul, where was this?" And he'd go, I can't remember. And then he'd tell you the story of the people he couldn't remember the location, but he could remember the people. And very few of them had Paul in it. And that's why that picture is a little unusual, at least for me. And the more I talked to him, the more I found that he had a tremendous story. And I happened to write articles for the American Aviation Historical Society. So I asked Paul, "Hey Paul, can I write an article about you?" No, I won't remember, no. But with Paul, with Diane and Paulie's help, we were able to drag it out of him. And it turned out to be pretty good. And Paulie has outlined a lot of it. of the things stick in my mind. Oh, you've flown all sorts of airplanes. And one of the things he said, he loved the DC-7. I'm trying to figure out why. And then I realized that the DC-7 had lots of knobs, lots of switches he could play with. Oh, hey, he sits on a flight somewhere. Oh, wow, fantastic. And the other thing was, I found in 1968, he wrote an article for Airway magazine, and it was about the flight engineer position. He wrote about the responsibilities of the job. He wrote about the duties on the ground and in the air. And he wrote about where it would lead to. If you wanted to become a pilot, you could use this as a stepping stone. And he had a commercial license, but he loved the flight engineer job. As Paulie said, the DC-10, he loved it. And he liked the Hawaiian flight. I'm thinking, well, who wouldn't? And he had the opportunity to fly the last DC-10, DC-10-10 to Honolulu, out of LA. Not satisfied, he transferred to Dallas for 1 month to fly the last DC-10 flight engineer to Honolulu, out of Dallas, and then he retired. But, as Paulie also pointed out, in his photography, he got lots of recognition. His pictures have been on various aviation magazines. They've been made into posters. At the Paris Air Show, he took first place for his photography, and he won 2 trips to Africa. And I believe he took it, right? So I look back at his career, and I thought, fantastic. And I know up in heaven, Paul has got a camera. No doubt about that. He never went anywhere without the camera. So what I want you to do, I want you all to put a big smile on your face. I want you to look up. 3, 2, 1, click. You're welcome.
My name is Kelly, and I have a little slightly different perspective.
I got booked to coach.
In 1991, my husband and I bought our very first house, and we have since been Paul's neighbor. That's a long time. And I've since moved to Louisiana, but I flew back here specifically for this event. You know, I consider Diane to be a sister of my heart, 100%, and the whole family. It's not, you know, Paul was rough, but what you said is true, Paulie. He's sincere. And as he became a little older, I think he softened some. But I'll never forget. In 1992, only a year after we had bought our very first house, my husband had a very, very serious heart attack. And we were terrified that he'd be dead shortly. And I remember it was Jan and Paul who invited us over and sat us in their living room and invited your friend over to say, this is our friend who's had a multitude of heart attacks and he's still here. Well, the man who had the heart attack is still here, all these years later, thank God. But I feel like your whole family is part of my family and my children's family. And, you know, when I knew how hard you were working caring for your father for so long. But I'm also so happy to know that my son Tyler got to see him in his last days. And I know that your father loved you so much, so much. And he's just looking down on all of you. And so, I mean, you all are the best legacy anyone could leave behind. So I just wanted you guys to know I feel that way.
Some of the stories you guys have been telling, and Dad was always very proud of, and our friend Warner is here today, and he'll probably talk about this a little more later, but he entered a photo contest with SAS Airlines, and his photo took first place, won him a trip around the world, and so he and my mom went around the world. I mean, it was all around the world. Bangkok, Africa, Europe. They were gone, I think, for about a month, and we stayed with Warner and his family. They took care of us. We were just young. I think that was like in 1966. When I was looking for photos, you know, like what Ed said, that's an unusual photo because he's in it. Most of the photos that we have of Dad's don't have him in it. I was working on a couple photo boards for today that you'll get to see when we get to the Proud Bird. And that was kind of a frustrating thing because looking through his photos, I couldn't find any pictures with him in it. I had to go through my phone, I had to go through old photos, and it was kind of a daunting task, but a good task. We did kind of come up with some, and I actually called Warner and I said, Warner, I don't have any pictures of you and him together. Do you have any? Could you send me some? And he did. He dropped everything he was doing, and within an hour he sent me the pictures so that I could get them, and you'll see a couple of them on a video that we're going to watch in a minute. And then also there's one photo board that has just a few of his pictures that he's taken over the years. And I don't know who said thousands. He probably has millions in the garage. This was before digital. He had thousands and millions before digital. We probably all have thousands on our phone right now, but he had them before. He only went digital probably about 10 years ago. So most of his pictures are printed or with the negatives, and he used to actually develop a lot of his own photos. So growing up, he would take pictures, we'd go to a reunion, and he'd be out in his dark room developing the pictures and then sending them out. So we've got a lot of black and whites. So if you've got black and whites or pictures on postcards, that's probably from Dad. And if you have any 5x7s, no, not 5x7s, 5x5 square photos, like that one, that was a 5x5. That was probably from Dad too, because he always got them developed as a 5x5, which was an unusual size. But he always, you know, took the camera. Sometimes he would say some things to us like, well, if you noticed in his pictures, he never really smiled, but he would always make us smile. Okay, smile, everybody, right? And so you'll see the pictures, he's not really smiling, but sometimes we catch a candid smile, and hopefully there's a few pictures in there like that. But a couple of things that he would say, okay, don't stand too close in case I want to crop you out. Yeah. Don't be touching, right? So, but he really never did crop anybody out. And then after he would take a picture, he would say, I look just like you. But anyways, but it was a lot of fun with him, and I was thankful for the time that I got to spend with him. Going to the Silver Stripes lunches and meeting all of his pilot friends. So anyways, we'll talk more at the Proud Bird. Thank you.
Chapter 17, verse 24. Jesus is writing to us about a very special time that he has with his disciples and some special thoughts that he has for them in the future. And we read here in verse 24, Jesus is saying a prayer to his heavenly Father, and he says, Father, I desire that those also whom you have given me may be with me where you are, and so that we can be together and they can see my glory, which you have given to me because you have loved me before the foundation of the world. In verse 26 of Joel chapter 2 reads, God wants to restore all we have lost and fulfill our lives with his love and provision. And what come to be is that in speaking with his family members, in speaking with people who were close to him in his life, one of the things that they showed in their life over and over again was that they had a relationship and appreciation with the God of the universe, the God who was their creator. And when I think about the people who were there with Paul, I recognize with all of his talent, all of his capabilities, all the wonderful things that were going on with him, one of the greatest things that Paul had going for him were the people in his life who never gave up when it came to the spiritual aspects of his life. That they saw in him an integrity. They saw in him things that were there for him and were designed to be there for his eternity. Some people might have said, well, why would Paul be granted the capability to live for 92 years? Some people think, well, you know what, he had a stubbornness that sometimes he had. And that's what helped him to stay tough and to stay all around and to help those people who were with him and around him to be able to develop some of those same characteristics in his own life. But I also believe that there were people around him who were praying and praying and praying, who believed that even though there's so much good, there was an aspect of his best that was still there, waiting to be fulfilled. And finally, it came. And he was able to come to a personal realization that the love of his family was real and it was genuine in such a way that he just never could give up. And it was something that in some ways I felt when I had talked to him some, that there was a debt of gratitude within his own heart for those who were in his family. And I just want to say to you that sometimes you could, think about him and how he could be somebody who, was pretty tough and was, sometimes even hard on the people that were in his family. But the truth of the matter is, he knew not only what he did for you, but he's known what you did for him. And I want you to always know that in those final years of his life, that is something he held inside within him as a debt of gratitude that was forever and will be with him forever. And as you go to someday join him in eternity, that's something that he will hold on to for you as well. Because you held in there all the way to the end because of your love, and my gratitude to you is forever.